Welcome to MOSY Motifs, a podcast dedicated to exploring the diversity and relevance of symphonic music. The Missouri Symphony is sponsoring MOSY Motifs in partnership with the Missouri Humanities Council and with support from the National Endowment for the Humanities. This show is hosted by Missouri Symphony's Director of Education and Outreach, Dr. Ashley Pribble. A motif is a short phrase of music that an entire piece is based on, so each season of this podcast will have its own motif. For Season 1, MOSY Motifs will explore the world of Black and Indigenous musicians of color, interviewing composers, conductors, and even musicologists as they share their own personal experiences in the world of classical music.
Dr. Brandon A. Boyd enjoys a versatile career as a conductor in addition to appearing regularly as a composer-in-residence, collaborative pianist, and presenter for conferences, conventions, collegiate choirs, church choirs, choral symposiums, and festivals. He is the Assistant Director of Choral Activities and Assistant Professor of Choral Music Education at the University of Missouri, where he conducts the MU Glee Club and the Concert Chorale. In addition to his conducting duties at the university, he teaches undergraduate and graduate courses in choral conducting and choral music education. As a proponent of choral singing to build community, his research interests include organizing choirs for the homeless, identifying the social and physical effects of choral singing on senior citizens, creating authentic field experiences for music therapy and choral music education students. He will be joining the Missouri Symphony on June 19th, to conduct our Juneteenth concert. Well, welcome, Brandon, and thank you for coming on our program, MOSY Motifs. I just want to ask you, what exactly do you do? It seems like you work with a lot of different kinds of music, a lot of different kinds of teaching. What are your sort of strengths, and what kind of music do you make, and how do you make it?
So my main job is at the University of Missouri, which is probably pretty evident to most people. Well, at least I need to make sure it's evident. But yeah, I teach at the University of Missouri. So I'm on the choral faculty as well as on the choral music education faculty. And so I'm a choral director, I'm a composer, a pianist, and things of that nature. I'm also an editor, and, but who I am at my core is probably a conductor and pianist. Those are the things that I really, really do, leading people in music. Those are I don't know if it's my strengths as much as my passion. I guess other people would have to say that. I can't say that, but it's definitely my passion. And so, yeah, I've had a lot of community experiences and things like that. I've had my upbringing is I was introduced to music, choral music, and singing and playing through just attending church. That was pretty much how I learned and gained my own voice in music. And probably the very first platform or stage, if you want to say. I mean, of course, we don't say that in a sacred setting, but it was one of those places where I was elevated and edified and educated, I could say, in that space. So a very sacred and dear space to me.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of the music that you post and conduct, a lot of it seems to be based on spirituals and sort of gospel music. Is that sort of where you would see your primary area? Do you do classical music at all? Sort of what are the areas that you work in?
Yes, well, I consider all of that classical because it is music of taken completely out of its original context and placed into the European style of context, I should say. And so it's all classical, but it is idiomatic music of the Black tradition. And I do think that is a specialty of mine. It's not the sum total of what I can do, but it is one of the things that I can do, and I'm very proud of it. As anyone who's very proud to be a Baroque specialist, and I mean, they get very proud of being Baroque specialists, and they should. And not to say I'm not a Baroque specialist. I don't live in the world of Baroque music every day. But neither do I live in the gospel of spiritual every day, but it is a part of my upbringing, a big part of it. And then as you go on to expand yourself to learn more music and different kinds of music and to figure out how that music came about, I think I took a little rest stop at spirituals, and the gospel influence was basically on that ride with me, because many of the spirituals in which I arrange have a sense of a gospel flair to them. But what we have to make people aware of is that the origination of the music, the origin of that music, is from the spiritual, and the decoration and the other things that we like about it, a lot of it is from the gospel tradition. But the parent is the spiritual, and the children would be the gospel music. And so you have to give credit to the parents for having the children, you know. So that's part of my job, is to educate people, because a lot of people can't disseminate the difference between a spiritual and gospel music. And there's a distinct difference. One was birth of the slave experience, and the other from the free people, basically had much more freedom and much more harmonic language and much more accompaniment and things like that to add to this seed, which was birthed and born through the African slaves here in this country. And so we can't just start there. There's African traditions that come along with that, and you know how that just passes down. And that's what we'll experience at the Juneteenth concert, which I'm very excited about. Not to rush that topic, but I'm extremely excited about it. You know why, Ashley? Because to take that music and to place it with a fine orchestra is just amazing, because you have really two opposite sides of the world coming together. In some ways, in many ways, we were right here in the middle together. Obviously, the singers that will perform that night are classical singers, are trained singers. I would 90% have a degree in music, if not a doctorate, if not a master's degree of some sort. So high level musicians, but who are willing to step back and take a look and explore some idiomatic music of the Black tradition and non-idiomatic music of the Black tradition. That's key. I wanted to be sure that we knew that some music would not be idiomatic. It would not come from the jazz, the gospel, or spiritual elements.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this Juneteenth concert. We could just go ahead and dive in there. I'm totally
good,
fine with
that's
that.
what I want to talk about.
So for our listeners who maybe aren't so familiar, can you explain what Juneteenth is?
Oh, absolutely. As many of us know, that Lincoln signed the Declaration in 1862. That's pretty much in most of our brains or through our history. But we don't realize that many people did not realize that slavery was over for a number of years. And it wasn't until 1865, June 19th, that's where it comes together, June 19th, that the news was carried into Galveston, Texas. And that was to tell people that this is over. But think about the people 3 years or so that did not get that news, and even longer than that. That's a documented date, but there were many other people who didn't get the news. And what's so important about that is during that time, it was declaring that all slaves are free. And this involves an absolute equality of people's rights and the rights of property at that time. So that means between the slave master and between the slaves, there should be no connection to your former life after that point. But of course, many people still were enslaved, because they had nowhere to go. I mean, that was normal living. I mean, you knew you had somewhere to live. You knew you had somewhere to something to eat. You knew you were familiar with the territory. But this concert is to celebrate the freedom of the African slaves and the American people, because many of them at that point were American because they were born in America. And so the music of this particular tradition in which we're going to celebrate is American music, birthed out of a very tragic situation, but yet beautiful. Not necessarily warranted experience, but it birthed the music that has now influenced jazz, blues, gospel, country, Broadway tunes. I mean, all the things. You think of any kind of music that tells a story, the African spiritual, the American spirituals. And that's one of the big things about the spiritual, is telling a story. So it's very communicative, very communicative. I mean, there's going to be call and response between the singers and the audience, because that's what it's about. You know, it's about passing that message along. There will be some people in the room who will feel slightly lifted off of their seats by what they hear and experience because of the passion and the pathos. But all of that goes further than 1950, than the Civil Rights era. It goes further than the early 1900s. It goes further than the 1860s. It goes back to this, that the real connection to movement and rhythm and soul that I think that all of us can identify and all of us love to experience at some point. I mean, I sometimes look at people who are intoxicated and I want to be them. I don't drink I don't do that, but as much, not to say I'm some saint, but I'm just saying, I look at them and go, wow, they look so free. They look like they have no care in the world. Of course, that's the alcohol, the liquid courage. But we want to bring a little courage to you. It might not be in liquid form, but it will be something that you can hear and experience and feel through the music. And to have the orchestra to play with us and to accompany. And we're sharing the stage, socially distanced and creating this experience where we have 12 wonderful singers, as I said before. Some are coming from Houston, from Kansas City, from St. Louis, and from Nashville. And I might be leaving out another area, but we have a few from Columbia, the big city of Columbia, and the 12 fantastic singers. I will add one other thing, that I'm just so grateful for this concert, because we were fortunate to have a fantastic orchestrator who has done over and beyond what we paid him to do, which is to orchestrate many of these pieces that are on this program. And for him to orchestrate these works, it would cost us $1 bazillion, but he has been very gracious to do many of these things just because he believes in this event. And I can't forget our fantastic soloist, who is Ngwanda Nobles. From Texas as well. She's from outside of Dallas, and she's a fantastic singer. Ngwanda and I had our last big concert together at the London Symphony Orchestra in March of last year, where she and I was a pianist and she was a guest soloist, and Dr. Andre Thomas was a guest conductor. And that was our big concert before, the thing that happened last year. We don't even have to say, what it was.
Really excited as well, and I'm really interested in this sort of stylistic blending that's going to happen in this concert, because obviously, as you mentioned, a lot of the music we're playing is idiomatic to gospel and to specific kinds of music that maybe our musicians aren't as familiar with. So what are your plans to sort of work through that and get everyone sort of thinking about things in the same musical style and musical way of playing?
Sure. And one of the things about this experience is I could have easily hired all Black people to sing in the chorus. Just everybody come with your own experience. But to me, it's educational, because I have some classical singers who don't sing this music all the time. But what I've tried to do is to notate the vocal scores and to give enough information in the vocal scores with edits and things like that to give consideration for what might happen. Something that a person of this tradition would just naturally do. I had to think about that 3 or 4 times and go, let me make a little mark there. There will be a little breath there that you don't think about. It's not notated, but that's just what would happen. Why? Because you'll die if not, because a lot of it is not about line as much as it is about rhythm and harmony. And that's the same way I like to approach the orchestra. So working with the orchestra is to go through those little patches of harmony throughout the music so people get a sense of what you do to create this synergy, sort of. It could be the woodwinds at some point because they might paint a picture. And that I want the choir to understand too, is to listen to the orchestra. There's moments where they have, they're the background to some degree. And then there's sometimes they are the actual bridge and we walk over. And then there are ways that they give us energy too. And that energy is something that stays within most of the music, but it gives us energy to figure out where we're going. Many people think that gospel music, jazz, and all the other idiomatic music just a lot of repetition. But the function of repetition is going to be extremely important for the orchestra and for the choir. That's to understand that the repetitions are not just because we need to fill up time. It's excitement, the building of excitement. And we're all trying to make it to June 1885. That's where we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to that moment when we got the news that we're free. And that level of freedom is going to be executed in the playing too. It's a freedom. And then there'll be music where there's we're back to a normal sense of just, the consonant harmonies and things like that we still have to listen for, the tuning. Because some people believe that, gospel music is just put it up there, it'll run, and it'll, like a train, it'll just do what it's supposed to do. But there's a lot of artistry, especially with the composers we want to highlight. And I guess I could talk a little bit about those composers.
Please do.
Okay, sure. Well, we want to open the concert with Lift Every Voice and Sing, a setting by Roland Marvin Carter. And Roland is very familiar to me because I did my dissertation on his music and life. And his setting of Lift Every Voice and Sing is one that is stunning. It's a concert setting. I call it a concert anthem. Many people probably call it a concert anthem because it is anthem-like. But it is just like we have the national anthem. This is the Black national anthem, often referred as the Negro national anthem. And this piece will be accompanied by orchestra. Then we're going to go into a piece called Choo Choo Joubert, which is going to kind of give you some themes of that train that is coming through town to pass on the news, whatever that news might be. And that is written or arranged or adapted, I should say, by Joseph Joubert, our orchestrator. Also, then we're going to go to Shosholoza, which is arranged by Jeffrey Ames, which talks about Nelson Mandela being on the train, passing through the mines, waving at the miners, letting them know he's free. And they're going to be singing Shosholoza, which means go forward, Nelson. That's basically, it's a song that they sang to him as he was on his way from prison. He was just released. All of these are very significant events in history, even in the 1900s, Then we're going to have Ngwanda sing, My God is so high, he can't get over. And that's arranged by Hall Johnson, the famous Hall Johnson, who was a major contributor for the concert spiritual, in which we know now. So taking the spiritual out of the element of the field and putting it on a concert stage, it's a major contributor to that. To me, it's always very important to make sure female contributors are represented during these concerts, because so many times the concert arrangements of these pieces are dominated by men. But this Wade in the Water is going to be by Linda Twine, which is only for the male voices of this group. And it's with orchestra. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece. And then we'll end that set. No, we won't end it just yet. We'll do back to Roland Carter. You must have that true religion, which is a spiritual, or you can't cross there. And he also, you'll feel the train aspect of this, because there's a true religion, true religion, true religion, true religion, true. That's that train effect. So this whole first section is carrying the news, the good news of what we must know to make it there. And we're going to end it with one of my settings of Until I Reach My Home, which will be with orchestra in Ngwanda. And that is one that is dedicated to Andre Thomas. Many people know him. He's a choir conductor in this country and a composer, and also the president of the American Choir Directors Association right now, president-elect. After intermission, we come back with In That Great Getting Up Morning, which is an arrangement by Don Marsh. Many people know it because Jesse Norman and Kathleen Battle performed this piece at Carnegie Hall, and it just was a boom, boom, boom. of a major piece. I mean, it just, you can't forget it, you know. The only thing is we're missing a trumpet. So I have to figure out how in the world I'm going to make that happen. I think I just have to beg for another trumpet because everything's in triadal harmony in this one. And if we do, we're going to be missing thirds or fifths or something. Then we're going to perform "We Shall Overcome" by Robert Gibson, who is a Missourian right now. He is in Springfield, Missouri, as a fantastic composer and arranger. And then the beloved, he's got the whole world in his hand. Negwanda will come back and sing Margaret Maugham's arrangement of that. "I Dream a World" by Andre Thomas. That's just the choir and the orchestra. "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot," which will be an a cappella piece by Negwanda. And then into "Ride Up in the Chariot." And that's arranged by Betty Jackson King along with the orchestra. And we'll end the concert with a premiere, which is one of my settings of "Sign Me Up for the Christian Jubilee." Write my name on the roll. And Joseph did the orchestration for that one, and it will be premiered with the Missouri Symphony and this wonderful ensemble. And so we're very excited. I know I am extremely excited. All the full scores are right here behind your head on the table, and I'm working on them daily. And sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty that are rejoicing thrice high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Lift every voice and sing till
I am so excited. I had the pleasure of playing some of these spirituals for the first time when I was in the University of Texas Trombone Choir. We actually did a CD called God's Trombones, and it's all mostly spirituals and arrangements of spirituals, and it was fun, but it's such challenging music. The harmonies are so different than what we normally would play necessarily in any sort of classical ensemble, as well as the style, but I just loved it. I'm so excited.
I am too. I'm excited. And I think that's the thing about this music, is to convey the excitement and to have players to feel excited about it as they would any music. And I'm sure they do about many of the music, but it has to be very intentional because of the historical context of how you are. You are basically the angels blowing the trumpets. You know, you are the ones to alarm the sound. And that is sound the alarm, sorry, to signify that you were once blind, but you cannot see. You know, you are free and free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. And that's the kind of freedom that I would like to get from the orchestra and from the choir, and to get that sense of synergy between the two. And they're not two anymore. You know, they're joined as one. And that's what's going to be fun, because I probably do a lot of singing to the orchestra, because that's what you do. You know, if someone can't really get it, if I'm in a foreign country, say I'm in Bolivia again. I was in Bolivia a couple summers ago, and I couldn't say anything. I mean, I could say a couple things in Spanish that I knew, but it was just easier for me to sing instead of me trying to go, yeah, can you slur the first note? They go, slur the first note. I don't know what he's saying, you know?
Oh, that's great. Speaking of freedom and this synergy, our audiences here at the Missouri Symphony are definitely used to a less participatory sort of program. So I was just wondering, how can we encourage them to maybe feel a little bit less inhibited about participating in this?
Oh, don't worry. I have a plan, sweetheart.
Oh,
I have
excellent.
a plan. I have a plan of action. Well, I have Negwanda to help me, and that's going to be extremely important, because Negwanda is going to be very much so like the preacher. She's going to be the preacher, and the choir is going to be the choir. And the choir is really like the cheerleaders for the preacher in the Black church. It is just a matter of they say amen before anybody. But many of the people in the audience will say amen. Not that, and I don't know about this experience, but in that experience. So to promote just that kind of freedom between the two ensembles has to come from me, typically from those kinds of concert settings. So there'll be moments where I'll teach them a little motive that they'll hear and say, sing along if you feel free to. Please sing along. Clap your hands. I mean, those are things that people would do. It looks very ridiculous to hear something and not respond to it. You know, I call your name, Ashley, and you're just looking into space. That's strange, right? Don't you think?
Yes.
But if you've been trained to do that, you do that. But if you've been given a license to drive, you drive. You know, you don't tell people you can't drive because you don't have a license. You do have a license. And that's my hope, is to give people a license. And that same license is representative of the freedom the people had back in the late 1800s that we wanted them to have, to know that they are free now. And this music is to continue to promote freedom and but not forget where we've come from and not forget things that were in place at a certain time. And so those are places we don't want to go back to. We got too much work to go backwards, you know, just way too much work. And that work is to build a sense of unity and harmony between people. And I didn't say black people and white people. I said people, all people. And this freedom this happens to come from a particular tradition, but it is also very much so the same testimony for Asians, for Jewish communities. I mean, we're not selfish. This is not just about our freedom. This is freedom for all people.
One of the things I know that you work on is music and community building. And I'm really looking forward to I really hope that this concert will sort of build some bridges in the community, in the Columbia community, and bring maybe people together into an audience who might not otherwise even come across one another.
Yeah.
So what are some ways that we can maybe build that community while we're at this concert?
Well, first, before we get there, we got to tell people to come.
Yes.
Tell more and more people to come. We want people from all areas, all community organizations to be a part of this, as many as we can allow. I say allow because of the restrictions, but we want as many people there as possible so that they can hear the good news and take it away and take it out into our communities and build unity. That's why we're opening the concert with the Lift Every Voice and Sing, one of the most unifying pieces that is called the Black National Anthem, the Negro National Anthem. Is one of the earlier references of this. That's the composer and librettist titled this, or many people titled it, I should say. I can't say that they did, but I know it's just nationally known as the Black National Anthem. But the text doesn't say anything about being black or white. So I want to set the tone by even having audience members sing that tune at the very beginning and have that tune and text in the actual program and participate in that very first verse, which I think sets the tone. And then I plan to chat with the audience and to not make this just music, but a conversation with music as basically not an exhibit, but as a confirmation to the message. We predominantly celebrate July 4th. Every time I think about that, I just feel as if there is also a major celebration for major contributors in building the U.S. And I say that flat-footed. Some people might disagree, but African slaves had a major contribution to building this country, the economic success of this country, and the arts. I mean, lots of areas in which they were able to excel and to provide services and resources that we still use to this very day. But to celebrate their freedom is paying homage to their lives and their work and their worth. They'll never, and that's why religious music in the Black church and Black communities are so important, because they knew that on earth it wasn't as good, so it had to be somewhere else, had to be better. I mean, it had to be better in heaven. That's why a lot of this music, people think it's very religious. It just has that connection to the Black church, which was that place of hope, place of refuge, place of hopefully, just removing yourself from daily life and into this trance sort of that was away from your current status, your current state of mind.
I've noticed you do a lot of work with community building and singing, and I feel like instrumental music really isn't as good at doing that as choral music. So I was wondering, sort of, what kind of lessons do you think that the symphony or instrumental musicians can learn from the way that choirs are able to really build community?
Yeah. Choirs are, most of the time in instrumental ensembles, a good portion, 80% or maybe less than that, have something up to their mouths when playing. So immediately it doesn't promote as much talking as we do in the choral setting, which we are talkers in the choral setting. I mean, we love to talk and hug and laugh and you just sit in a rehearsal, you figure that out in 2 seconds. It's very different. But that I think what I could say for any instrumental ensemble is having more conversations and being available with the resources, even if it's the intellectual property or if it's the ability to play or to accompany or partner with choral ensembles more. To me, it's more, it's the best when I can go to a choir concert. Great, I love choral singing, but I love when there's an accompaniment of some sort. It could be just a French horn with choir and piano. And so those are ways in which I think we can build more community between the two, is just jump at all those opportunities to collaborate. Yes, I have done community, in the last 2 years, it seems like I've done none because of just what's going on. But I got my introduction to community partnerships through the senior choir of Tallahassee, just going in, working with senior adults, teaching them songs of old. I mean, things that they knew from the 50s and 60s to just bring a little joy. Instrumentalists could do the same thing with just playing music of that particular style, or music from particular traditions, and there may be a concert night for them to just dance, jazz, some of the old Frank Sinatra tunes, things that take them to that happy place, And so also I had a wonderful opportunity to, going on to my next kind of community partnership, was the prison choir in Florida when I was in graduate school, working with the prison choir, going in, working with women who were incarcerated and teaching them vocal concepts and getting them prepared for concerts. That's the most rewarding thing I'd ever done in my life, is to go in and work with them and to build them up through music. And that's what music has the power to do, is to build people up and to motivate people and to make them feel good. It can make you feel sad too, but it has that power. That's what I'm focusing on, is to uplift you or to take you to a different place or state. And that's what this music's about. We're talking about with Juneteenth. That's why music is so imperative in celebrating a Juneteenth celebration. It's about lifting you to a new space. And one of the other opportunities I've had was starting a homeless choir in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where, people who are experiencing homelessness, they're not homeless people, they're experiencing homelessness, because we want to get them out of that state into being independent citizens again on their own, and to bring music to them. So that's three different populations, I should say. I mean, you have senior choirs, you have prison choirs, you have homeless choirs, or people suffering from homelessness, and giving them the gift. So that's why I have such a passion for music. People want to know, like, there's just something, you just sing. I'm extraordinarily excited about it because I've seen its power all the way to the Concert Hall of London. I mean, the Barbican Hall. And people still had the same level of excitement, no matter who they were. All those people could have been experiencing homelessness, or could have been senior adults, or could have been incarcerated, They all don't look like those tags when they're performing. They look like human beings enjoying something that I think was gifted us from the master. the creator, and that is who you believe the creator is. I know I believe, but it's for that. Hey, we don't have to. I don't have to watch the same movie you watch it in your head. That's your movie, But I believe that it is for us. It is a gift to all of us. It's just a gift. But with those three populations, and then we take it on. Now, I say those populations are suffering some disadvantage compared to, I work with, students at choral festivals in all states and church choir retreats and university students, but they all look the same when they really are just happy with what they're doing. And that's singing together with someone else.
I also love singing with others, and I do feel like either both playing an instrument and singing, there really is something about participating in this way where everyone is sort of in the same zone and in the same place, and you're connecting on this really different level that honestly I really miss. I'm ready for COVID to be over so I can go back and I can play in the civic orchestra here, because I miss performing a lot. And I think, for a lot of us who are performers, this has been a really difficult time because we don't get to do that. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your work with the Santa Fe Desert Chorale. Now, I will say part of this is completely selfish in that I'm a New Mexico native.
Oh,
so
you are?
I am. So I'm interested in this Giving Voice to the Voiceless project and the piece you wrote. So I was wondering if you wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Yes. That's one of my only composition, I should say. And that is titled I Search. And I'll tell you what happened. I was actually asked to be the accompanist, the pianist for the Justice concert, which was one of the three concerts during the summer season for the Santa Fe Desert Chorale. For some of you who don't know who that might be, that's one of our oldest professional choral ensembles in this country. One of the longest running choral ensembles too. I mean, it has not had a lapse in year other than during COVID. Many of them start and kind of fall off, and but this one has been running a long, long time. And so in the celebration, I think of the 35th anniversary, they wanted to commission someone to write a poem. And that poem was actually, the text of that poem came from a young lady who was incarcerated in a juvenile detention center. And I got a bunch of texts, and they just asked me, could you look through and find anything? And I searched, jumped out at me because, for one, it had a sort of a rhythm to it. But to me, it represented more than just this young lady. It represented all the populations that are disadvantaged. This could be from the LGBTQ community. This could be from Asian communities, from Jewish communities, from the Black communities. It just had this sense of what I'm searching for. And what it really is for who I am, and it's through the lens of who I am and who I say I am, not what anybody else says I am. And I just saw it and heard it and printed it out, and I thought I'd put it onto the side and printed a couple others out, and that one was the one that gravitated to me. And I had to go in, and she was a 13-year-old girl, so there, unfortunately we're not able. And her name is Poet V, because that's all the information we could have. But I don't know if she's ever even heard the piece. We performed it on our Justice tour, but unfortunately we're not able to contact her, and those are some of the parameters. But it's a meaningful piece, and I've yet to publish the piece, and I hope to. I've just been debating on it, just waiting for the right time, to publish it and to tell its story a little bit.
Yeah, I just found that really interesting, the whole story. And, I'm not I don't know that much about choral music. That's not my area.
Yeah.
So I was really fascinated to learn that there was this whole choral program that existed where I grew up, that I never knew about.
Mhm.
So now next time I go home, I'm definitely going to
Yeah, their
check it
concerts are
out.
amazing. They are a fine group.
Speaking of, are there any surprise choral groups here in the area that we should maybe be checking out, going to listen to?
Well, I'm promoting, of course, Choral Union, but which is our major town and gown chorus of the university, and also the Columbia Chorale, which is one that has slightly adopted me because we just did a concert last week called The Cry of Jeremiah, which is written by Rosephine Powell, a black female composer, and we did that piece with. Um, it's with the organ, but we did it with the keyboard because of just the distance in the space at Sacred Heart, but and with percussion. So that was a quite a fun 30-minute kind of concert, and we live streamed it, and we plan to, I would say, be on the lookout for the edited version of that live stream because they had some technical difficulties. But Emily Edgington Andrews is the artistic director of that ensemble, and she does fantastic work with them. I love her dearly. She's one of our doctoral students here at the University of Missouri. She's going to make us extremely proud, I believe, as a graduate. So those are the ensembles that I like to talk about that are community based.
I've been really sort of thinking a lot about the way that vocal music really does social justice work in this very proactive way in some ways. Because I also think about gay and lesbian choirs during the AIDS epidemic and the work that they did, as well as, of course, the work of both Black choirs, but and more generally the Black church in civil rights movements in this country. I think often certain people who don't grow up in those traditions where singing is encouraged, where participatory singing is not encouraged, feel a little bit hesitant maybe to join in these songs. And I was just wondering, do you have any words of encouragement you could give people who maybe want to sing but are afraid that they're not good enough, or
Yeah.
how to participate? Yeah.
I say, hey, turn the music on in your car and just live. That's one of the big moments is the hearing it. Because listening to music, even many people remember the gospel song "Oh Happy Day." That is one that I think is like it should be like the starter pack for learning music of that particular tradition and style, or music of the gospel tradition style, if that's what you want to call it. But it doesn't have to be. I mean, you can listen to "Hey Jude" and feel like you want to just sing. But it's you should feel you have a license to do it. You should express yourself. And music just begs you to do that. And when you don't, there's a resistance there. I mean, it should feel strange, as I mentioned earlier. But I can't take everybody to the Black church and sit them there for 10 years and let them just, see what's going on around them. Because most people be more entertained than participatory, because it is so entertaining to some people because it's so not traditional. It's not what you're accustomed to seeing. For me, I mean, things that go on in my church. I remember I had a white friend in college who I took to church. And when we got in the car, she remembered everything that happened in church. And I missed all of it because it was so normal. She said there was a lady on the floor, and then there were two other ladies who came by and they were fanning her. And I mean, there was a whole scene. I was looking for the ambulance. And then I thought, ambulance? No, she was out in the spirit. That was just not something she was used to. She was from Iowa or somewhere. I can't remember where she was from. I can't remember where she was from. Her name was Jamie Butke. Sorry, Jamie, I put you out there. But I just remembered that because it's just such a part of the tradition. But listening to music, that's the thing about it. Listening to it. It's the only way. It's like listening to anything else. Romantic music. How do you really express romantic music without listening to it, without listening to Baroque music? How do you listen? I mean, classical music. I mean, those articulations come by listening, and the notations that we see are just confirmations and reminders. but it should be in our body and our mindset to be in this sense of this is what's expected of this style. Why step outside? I mean, you don't step outside of that. You really follow those guidelines. But once we get into classical gospel or spiritual jazz or anything like that, where the score becomes a little bit secondhand, really, really secondhand. I mean, it's like it's just a reference, but it's not some total. Instrumentalists really get nervous. You say, "Okay, give me that music now. Let's play it." Oh, they start cursing. Yeah, because they don't know what to do next. But what it is understanding the form of things. And just like we do in classical music. Yes, it's a little bit more simplistic, I believe, but you understand the form of something and you understand what's highlighted when and where. That's how I get to, when I conduct orchestras, that's all I think about. Woodwinds coming in here. Brass and percussion are getting ready to do something. Strings are getting ready to be so luscious. I just feel like just the most beautiful thing you get. And when you mix them all together, there's something about that synergy that is just, when you get a real unison from an orchestra, it can feel like, you could just feel like the most powerful human in the world conducting it. And that's just the power of the music without words, which is just as important in many ways. But when you add text, you get a little bit more of a real strong connection, a real clear sense of a message. That's what the text is all about. It's a message. And that message is not always for you. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just for you. Many times the music is to pass on to the audience. And there's a song that I often think I have a message from the Lord, hallelujah. I have a message from the Lord, amen, something like that. But it always makes me think of the spiritual when I hear that, because it's or music of this particular tradition, because people say, how can I do it and more authentically? Well, you have to know it so well that you can tell it firsthand. And that means getting away from the score, which is scary.
So scary. As an instrumentalist in the classical tradition. So scary.
It's scary. It's scary. But what I want to beg of the orchestra to do is to be sure that they understand the message. And that's where I'm going to talk to them more than they get talked to normally a little bit. And not too much, of course, because most instrumentalists come to play. I get that. We come to play, sir. We don't want to have a happy-go-lucky spiritual revival right now. But there are some things that are important about the music. So if it shows an opportunity for me to do that, I'll do that. Because it might be that motive is jumping around here in the violins, and then it's going over to might go to the cello. You just never know. It might go to the brass very rarely, but probably in the flute. Something is happening here. Yeah, most of the time it's not. Brass is to give us those rhythms and harmonies,
Oh, I know that too well.
Oh, yeah. So, but even understanding that, who are you? That's what I really want people to know. Who am I? Am I the children playing out in the field? Am I the master declaring? Am I God? Am I a slave? Am I the wailing mother who's screaming, like, don't take my child from me? Who am I? And many times in this music here, you get to experience some part of those experiences, which take us all the way to very contemporary choral settings. Like I was mentioning, the Sign Me Up. The Sign Me Up, which I'll close the concert with, is honestly a piece that in the Black church, many people sang as a recessional or processional. As families marched into the church where they were, going to celebrate the life of a loved one, or as that loved one is taken out of the church as a symbol that they are going to a better place. And I quoted a little spiritual called Roll, Jordan, Roll. I want to go to heaven when I die to hear, Oh, Jordan, roll. And what does that mean? It just means I want to hear my name called in the Lamb's Book of Life. And that is honestly, and that symbol, I want that symbolization to be, I want my life on this side to represent good. Some want to go to heaven. That's great. Some want to just be known as a good human. And I have helped and I have promoted good. I have promoted unity. I have promoted no selfishness, bringing people together and not dividing us. And so that little quote, which I use as a wandering refrain, and as Richard Allen often talked about, is how a refrain in one song can find its way in multiple songs and still connect. Because Roll Jordan Roll is his own independent spiritual. But to use that in the midst of sign me up for the Christian Jubilees, write my name on the roll. I've been changed since the Lord has lifted me. I want to be. I gotta be born again. And that rebirth is taking you to a new place, to a new height. And that's what we all want to be. We want to be born again. I mean, we don't want to just be the same human. Every day we want to be rebirthed. When our eyes open, we want to see, now, how can I shed away those things that don't promote who I really want to be and be known as at the end of my days on planet Earth.
I hope this concert is inspiring as talking to you.
I hope it's more inspiring.
And I think, for our listeners who haven't heard an orchestra with voices before, it really is a special experience of any kind. Whether it's
oratorio
Beethoven 9 or whatever. Yeah, oratorio. Yeah.
It's my favorite because it basically shares the load. You know what I mean? It doesn't put all the load on just those people who could say, I can imagine things from an instrumental, from instrumental offerings, or people who say, oh, okay, you're giving me everything I need to know. But when you put those two forces together, you get a sense of what the narrative is, but you also get to create your own narrative in some ways. Like, maybe he meant this in this little section.
I am very excited.
I am too.
Wait. Is there anything else we need to know about this Juneteenth concert? I guess I should tell people when it is.
Yes, Juneteenth. Should it be helpful to remember it's on June 19th?
It is, and it's at 7 p.m. in Jesse Auditorium. So tickets are on sale. So please come and enjoy this amazing concert. Anything else we should know?
No, just thank you so much for having a conversation with me today. And this is quite fun for me. It made me realize even more about the program than I thought I knew. I mean, I'm thinking about it in parts, but now to kind of think of it in this gestalt, it's just different.
And if our listeners want to follow you, do you have social media? Do you have a website?
Yeah, I do. I have social media. I have the website at the University of Missouri. It's probably not too hard to find me on the faculty. I'm the only Black man on there. So you go to the School of Music website, you should be able to find me. If not, someone will help you. My social media is kind of limited to Instagram and Facebook. So Facebook is where I live. And trying my best to promote some of the professional activities that I do or will do. But that's free to anybody who can fit within those 5,000 friends, which I don't think I have too many more, but and then Instagram at BABoyd0622.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope that all of these listeners will join us on June 19th.
Yay. Thank you so much.
This episode of MOSY Motifs has been brought to you by the Missouri Symphony and the Missouri Humanities Council. For a list of musical examples used in this episode, please check our show notes. The entirety of each work, as well as more music related to today's episode, can be found on our YouTube page. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider donating to the Missouri Symphony at www.themosy.org/donate. And as always, thank you for listening to MOSY Motifs.